I never thought a harmless stare could change everything about who I am, or who I appear to be. My name is Ethan, a 20-year-old college student majoring in computer science. I wasn't the kind of guy people noticed. Average grades, quiet in class, always sitting near the back, hidden behind my laptop. My world revolved around logic, not emotions. But that was before Professor Lane entered my life. Professor Lane was one of those teachers everyone respected and feared. Sharp suits, sharper words, and an uncanny ability to see through excuses. She had a way of locking eyes with you and making you confess even what you didn't do. For some reason, she always singled me out, challenging my answers, teasing me in front of the class, sometimes even smirking when I stammered. I thought she hated me. I didn't know she was testing me for something far stranger. Outside of class, my girlfriend Emma was the opposite of Professor Lane. Warm, funny, and full of energy. She loved fashion, makeup, and TikTok trends, everything I didn't understand. She would often joke, "Ethan, you'd look cute with eyeliner," and I'd laugh it off, pretending not to blush. Deep down, I wasn't sure why the idea didn't repulse me as much as it should have. Emma and I had been together for almost a year, but recently, things felt off. She said I was too serious, too stiff, that I didn't know how to have fun. And maybe she was right. I'd been so focused on school and keeping up with Professor Lane's impossible assignments that I'd forgotten how to relax. That's when Emma gave me the idea that would set everything in motion. "Why don't you join the drama club?" she said one evening, lying on her bed while scrolling through her phone. "They're short on people for the new play. It'll help you open up." "Drama? Me?" I scoffed. "Emma, I can't even talk in class without sweating." She smirked. "Then that's exactly why you should do it." It sounded like a harmless suggestion. But the next day, everything changed when Professor Lane overheard our conversation after class. "So, Ethan," she said, crossing her arms, "I hear you're considering joining the drama club." I froze. It's just something my girlfriend mentioned." "Interesting," she cut in. "Because they need a replacement for one of the lead female roles after an actor dropped out." My eyes widened. "Female role?" Her lips curved into a knowing smile. "Yes. It would be quite the challenge for you, wouldn't it? Learning to walk, talk, and behave like a girl for an entire performance." She leaned closer, her tone dropping. "Or are you too scared to try?" I should have said no. I should have laughed it off. But the class was watching. Emma was there, grinning. My pride wouldn't let me back down. So I said, "Fine. I'll do it." The room went silent. Professor Lane's smirk deepened. "Good. Then it's settled. You'll audition tomorrow after class. If you impress me, I'll give you extra credit. Fail, and you'll perform anyway, as a lesson in confidence." The laughter that followed burned through me like fire. I just agreed to humiliate myself. But what scared me more was the flicker of curiosity that sparked inside me. That night, Emma couldn't stop teasing me. "Ethan, this is going to be so fun. You'll need a wig, some heels, and maybe a little makeup. I can help." I groaned. "Emma, this isn't a joke. She's actually making me do this." "Oh, come on," she said, grinning. "You might surprise yourself. Besides, I've always wanted to see what you'd look like as a girl." Her playful tone made me blush again. I told myself I was doing this just to prove a point to Professor Lane, to Emma, maybe even to myself. But a small part of me wanted to see it too, to know what it felt like to step into someone completely different. The next day came faster than I expected. Emma brought over a bag full of clothes and cosmetics. "Don't worry," she said cheerfully. "We'll start simple. Just a test run before your audition." When she opened the bag, my heart skipped a beat. Skirts, blouses, a pair of shiny heels, and a long auburn wig. Everything about it screamed wrong, yet I couldn't look away. "I don't know about this," I muttered, my voice trembling. "Relax," Emma said softly. "It's just for practice. I'll guide you." As she brushed foundation over my skin and traced eyeliner along my lashes, I stared at my reflection. My face blurred between what I knew and what I didn't. My hands fidgeted as she fixed the wig, adjusting it gently. Then she smiled, holding up a mirror. There, she whispered. Meet Emily. The name hit me like a shiver. I didn't look like Ethan anymore. The person in the mirror had soft features, long hair brushing her shoulders, and lips tinted rose pink. She looked shy, almost scared, but strangely alive. See, Emma said with a teasing grin. You make a pretty convincing girl. I laughed nervously, trying to brush it off. This is insane. But when she made me stand and walk across the room in those heels, I felt something shift. The awkwardness, the tension, it all melted into a strange sense of freedom. For the first time in months, I wasn't Ethan, the quiet, stressed-out student. I was someone else. Someone lighter. That's when Emma said something that sent a chill down my spine. You know, she whispered, Professor Lane's going to love this. She told me once she wanted to see how far a student would go to prove a point. I froze. Wait, what? Emma looked up, her expression unreadable. She talked to me after class. She said she wanted to make a bet. She thinks you'll back out before the audition. I said you wouldn't. I stared at her. You what? She smiled nervously. Don't be mad. I just thought it'd motivate you. But I wasn't thinking about motivation anymore. I was thinking about that smirk on Professor Lane's face, the glint in her eyes. This wasn't just a joke or a dare anymore. This was a setup, a bet between my girlfriend and my teacher. And I was the pawn. And tomorrow, I'd have to walk into class as her, Emily. The next morning, I woke up with a pit in my stomach. My alarm buzzed, but it wasn't the usual kind of dread that came from an exam or a deadline. It was something heavier, something that made my hands tremble as I sat up in bed. Today was the audition. Today, I had to show up as Emily. Emma had texted me before sunrise. Don't chicken out, you've got this. I stared at the message for a long time before replying with a single word. Fine. I told myself this was temporary, just a joke, a lesson, a dare. But deep down, I knew something about it already felt irreversible. Once you let someone else see that side of you, you can't go back to pretending it doesn't exist. When Emma arrived, she looked far too excited for what she called Transformation Day. She carried 2 bags this time, one with clothes, one with makeup. We're going all in, she said cheerfully, pushing past me into my apartment. Emma, I began. This is getting. Relax, she cut in. You agreed to the bet. Besides, Lane's going to expect you to look the part. You don't want to disappoint her, do you? I groaned, but didn't argue. My pride wouldn't let me back down. I couldn't let either of them win. So I stood still as Emma began her work. She started with foundation, blending it carefully into my skin. You have nice cheekbones, she murmured. You just never notice them. Her touch was light, professional, almost affectionate. When she brushed mascara over my lashes, I flinched. Stay still, she said softly. You're going to be perfect. Each layer of makeup felt like a step further from myself. When she slid a pair of fake lashes onto my lids, I barely recognized the reflection in the mirror. The person staring back wasn't Ethan. She was softer, more delicate, with hesitant eyes framed by dark hair that brushed against her cheeks. Emma smiled proudly. You're ready. I wasn't. But she didn't give me a choice. She helped me into a white blouse and a pleated skirt that stopped just above my knees. The fabric felt strange against my legs, light, unfamiliar. Then came the wig, styled into long, chestnut waves that cascaded over my shoulders. Finally, she placed a thin gold necklace around my neck and whispered, Now you're Emily. When I looked at myself again, my chest tightened. I'd seen my reflection before, but this time it felt different. It wasn't a costume anymore. It looked real, too real. Ethan, Emma said, studying me. No one's going to know. You look incredible. I feel ridiculous.
She grinned. Good.
That's the point. Now, let's see how confident you are in class. My pulse spiked. Wait, you mean I actually have to go to class like this? Of course, she said casually. Professor Lane won't take the bet seriously otherwise. And besides, that's how you prove you're not afraid. I wanted to argue, to tell her this was too much, but she handed me a pair of heels and said, Trust me. And for some reason I did. The walk to campus felt endless. Every step echoed in my mind. Every passing student made my stomach twist. I clutched my bag close, praying no one would look too closely. But even as my nerves burned, there was something intoxicating about it. The swish of the skirt against my legs, the soft weight of the wig brushing my shoulders, the faint scent of Emma's perfume she dabbed on my wrists. By the time I reached the classroom, my hands were shaking. Professor Lane was already there, leaning against her desk, her arms crossed. Her sharp gaze swept over me, and for a second, she didn't say a word. Then her lips curved into a slow, deliberate smile. "Well," she said, her voice smooth as silk, "you actually did it." A few students turned to look at me, confusion flickering in their eyes. I could feel their stares like heat on my skin. I wanted to disappear. Professor Lane stepped closer. "What's your name today?" she asked, her tone teasing but laced with challenge. I hesitated, my voice trembling. "Emily." She raised an eyebrow. "Louder, please." "Emily," I repeated, a bit firmer this time. "Good." She smirked. "Class, meet Emily, Ethan's other half. Today, she's auditioning for our drama project." The room filled with soft laughter and whispers. I could feel my face burning. But Lane wasn't done. "I must say, Emily, you look quite convincing. I expected you to quit before you got this far." "I don't quit," I muttered. Her eyes glinted. "We'll see." Then came the worst part, the audition. She handed me a short monologue from a play called The Lady's Confession. It was full of emotional lines about heartbreak and courage. Reading it as myself would have been hard enough, but now, standing in front of everyone dressed like this, it felt impossible. Still, I took a deep breath and began. At first, my voice wavered. But then something strange happened. As I read the words, I started to feel them. The character's pain, her vulnerability, it echoed my own fear of being seen, of being judged. The trembling in my voice became part of the performance. The class fell silent. Even Professor Lane's smirk softened into something unreadable. When I finished, the room stayed quiet for a moment before she finally spoke. "Impressive," she said, her tone low. "You surprised me." I didn't know whether to feel proud or humiliated. My heart was racing, and my hands were still trembling, but somewhere inside me, something had shifted. For a moment, I wasn't pretending. I wasn't Ethan acting like a girl. I was Emily. Lane dismissed the class, but as everyone filed out, she called, "Emily, stay behind." My stomach dropped. When the room emptied, she walked around me slowly, like she was studying a painting. "You really went through with it," she murmured. "You have potential." "I just did what you asked." She smiled faintly. "No, you did more than that. You became her." I didn't expect that. Her words made me shiver. "So, does that mean the bet's over?" "Not quite," she said, leaning in close. "You've proven you can act. Now I want to see if you can live the part." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "I'm assigning you a challenge," she said smoothly. "For the next week, you'll attend my class as Emily. Dress the part, speak the part, be the part. If you complete it without anyone finding out who you really are, you'll earn top marks for the semester." My heart nearly stopped. "A week? That's insane." Her gaze hardened. "You agreed to the bet. Or are you backing out already?" I opened my mouth but couldn't speak. The truth was, I didn't know what scared me more, the thought of everyone finding out, or the thrill of continuing. "I'll do it," I said quietly. Her smirk returned. "Good. Let's see if you can keep your secret." The week that followed was pure chaos. Every morning, Emma helped me get ready, picking outfits, doing my makeup, giving me feminine posture lessons. What started as nervous laughter soon turned into serious effort. By the third day, she was correcting how I walked, how I sat, even how I smiled. "Don't slump," she'd say. "You're Emily now." Confidence. Sometimes she looked at me with something new in her eyes, curiosity, maybe admiration. Other times it was confusion. I couldn't tell if she still saw me as her boyfriend or something else entirely. At school, things grew tense. I started sitting near the front of the class, something I'd never done before. Students whispered, trying to figure out who the new girl was. A few even complimented my outfit. It was surreal, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. But it wasn't all smooth. There were close calls. A student from my programming class nearly recognized my voice, a security guard asked for my ID, and once, my wig almost slipped during a presentation. Each time, my heart pounded so loud I could barely think. And through it all, Professor Lane watched. Silent, observant, calculating. She never said much in class, but every time our eyes met, I felt her unspoken question. How far will you go? By the end of the week, I wasn't sure I had an answer. I wasn't just pretending anymore. Emily was slipping into everything I did, how I spoke, how I moved, even how I thought. The lines between me and her blurred more every day. And then came the announcement that changed everything. Lane stood before the class, her tone sharp. For our upcoming performance, she said, I've decided to let the audience vote for the lead role. Sorry, Emily. You'll perform live in front of the department. My breath caught. In front of everyone? She smiled thinly.
Yes.
Consider it the final stage of our bet. Emma squeezed my hand under the desk, whispering, You can do this. But I wasn't sure anymore. Because deep down, I wasn't afraid of being caught. I was afraid. I didn't want to stop. The morning of the performance felt like stepping into a dream I couldn't wake from. The mirror in my dorm room showed someone I almost didn't recognize. My long brunette wig shimmered under the light. The soft pink lipstick Emma had chosen made my lips look delicate. The dress was elegant, flowing fabric, a lace neckline that framed my shoulders, and for the first time, I didn't see a costume. I saw her. Emily. And that realization terrified me. Emma sat on the bed, her expression unreadable. You look incredible, she said softly. No one will ever doubt who you are. Her voice trembled slightly, and I caught something deeper in her tone. Pride, fear, maybe both. I laughed nervously. You realize this is insane, right? A week ago, I was just a guy trying to pass my acting class. Now I'm this. She smiled faintly. You're better than you think. Maybe this was who you were meant to be all along. The words hit harder than I expected. Meant to be. I looked away, brushing a hand over my smooth cheek. Emma, don't say that.
This isn't me.
It's just a game. Then why do you sound like you're trying to convince yourself? She whispered. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A message from Professor Lane. Be on stage by 5. Don't be late, Emily. The auditorium was already buzzing by the time I arrived. Students, teachers, even people from other departments had come to see the final performance. A few were whispering about the new girl who had supposedly blown everyone away in rehearsals. I slipped backstage, my heart racing. Lane was waiting there, dressed in black, her arms folded as always. When she saw me, her lips curled into that familiar half-smile. You actually showed up, she said. I wasn't sure you'd make it. Why wouldn't I? I asked, trying to sound confident. Because most people would have run the moment they realized what they'd become. Her words sent a chill through me. What's that supposed to mean? She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You've spent a week living as someone else. You didn't just act Emily, you became her. Look at you. Do you even remember how to be Ethan anymore? I swallowed hard. Of course I do. Then prove it, she said with a glint in her eyes. After tonight, take off the makeup, the wig, the clothes, and tell me if you still feel like the same person. I didn't answer, because I didn't know if I could. When the lights dimmed and the curtain rose, I felt every eye on me. The play began, the lady's confession, the same one I'd auditioned with. My role was the lead, a woman torn between love and duty, trying to hide a painful secret from those around her. The irony wasn't lost on me. As the scenes unfolded, something inside me cracked open. Every line felt personal. Every tear was real. I wasn't pretending anymore. I was confessing, in front of hundreds of people, the truth I didn't dare speak. By the time I reached the final monologue, the room was silent. I spent my life hiding behind a mask. I said, my voice trembling, afraid that if they saw the real me, they'd turn away.
But now,
I think I was the one afraid to look. The words echoed in the hall. For a moment, no one breathed. And then came the applause. Deafening. Explosive. People stood up, cheering, clapping, shouting my name, Emily.
not Ethan.
Emily. I smiled, tears in my eyes, overwhelmed, and then I saw her. Professor Lane stood at the edge of the stage, watching me with that same calm expression. Only now, there was something new in her gaze, satisfaction. That's when it hit me. This had never been just a bet. Backstage, I confronted her. You planned this, didn't you? Lane tilted her head. Planned what exactly? All of it. The bet, the transformation. You wanted me to become her.
She didn't deny it.
You're perceptive, finally. I saw your hesitation on the first day of class. You had talent, but no courage. You hid behind sarcasm, behind fear. So, I gave you a challenge you couldn't run from. You turned me into someone else. I snapped. No, she said quietly. I helped you find someone who is already inside you. I shook my head. You don't understand. People think I'm a girl now. I can't undo this. She smiled faintly. Then don't. Who says you have to? Before I could respond, Emma appeared. She looked pale, her eyes flicking between us. What's going on? Lane's smile widened slightly. Ask your boyfriend. Emma, I began. It's not what it looks like. Really? She interrupted, her voice shaking. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're enjoying this. Her words cut through me. I'm not. This is just for the class. She laughed bitterly. You're lying. I can see it in your face. I stepped forward, reaching for her hand. Emma, please. She pulled away. Do you even want to go back to being Ethan? The silence between us said everything. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to insist that this was temporary, that I hadn't lost myself. But deep down, the truth clawed at me. I wasn't sure anymore who I wanted to be. Lane watched quietly, her eyes gleaming like she'd been waiting for this moment. Every actor reaches a point where the mask becomes the face, she murmured. The question is, are you ready to accept it? Emma turned and walked away, tears streaking her cheeks. I tried to follow, but Lane stopped me with a firm hand on my shoulder. Let her go, she said softly. You've got a choice to make, Emily. Stop calling me that, I snapped. My name is... Is it? She whispered. Her words hung in the air like a curse. That night, I sat alone in my dorm, the applause from earlier still echoing in my head. I'd taken off the wig, the makeup, the dress. I thought stripping it all away would bring relief. But when I looked in the mirror, the emptiness staring back scared me more than anything. Without Emily, I didn't recognize myself. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You were amazing tonight. I always knew you'd make a beautiful girl. Lane. I dropped the phone, my breath catching. What if this wasn't the end? What if she wasn't done with me? The next day, whispers spread through campus. Photos from the performance had gone viral on the department page. Pictures of Emily, the mysterious actress who'd stolen the show. No one mentioned Ethan. No one even remembered him. When I walked into class, people smiled and greeted me by name. Morning, Emily. You were incredible last night. You should totally audition for the next play. Professor Lane stood at the front, pretending to review papers. When our eyes met, she gave me the slightest nod, like we shared a secret no one else could understand. For the first time, I realized maybe that was her goal all along.
Not to humiliate me.
Not even to teach me.
To create me.
And I didn't know how to undo it. That evening, Emma finally texted me. We need to talk. I met her at the cafe near campus. She looked exhausted. When she saw me, her eyes softened just a little. I don't even know who I'm talking to anymore, she said quietly. Ethan, Emily, maybe both. Emma, please, I said. This got out of hand. I didn't mean for any of it. She cut me off. Maybe you didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. And I think part of you liked it. Her words left me speechless. Because she was right. I don't know who I am anymore, I whispered. When I'm dressed like her, I feel alive. When I'm not, I feel empty. Emma reached across the table, taking my hand gently. Then maybe that's your answer. Tears burned my eyes. You think I should stay like this? She shook her head. I think you should stop running from whoever you really are. Her voice was kind, but her eyes were full of sorrow, like she already knew she was losing me. That night, back in my dorm, I opened my closet. The wig, the dresses, the shoes, all lined up neatly. I stared at them for a long time before whispering to the empty room, "Who am I?" And from somewhere deep inside, a voice answered, "Emily." The morning of the big day felt unreal. I stood in front of my mirror at home, wearing a wig of silky brown hair that brushed against my shoulders. The reflection staring back at me was not the Ethan I'd grown up with. It was someone softer, gentler, and far more nervous. My teacher's bet had spiraled into something I couldn't escape now. Miss Avery's words echoed in my mind from the day before. If you're so confident that appearances don't matter, Ethan, then prove it. Spend one full day as a girl. Dress up, act the part, and attend class as Emily. I'd laughed nervously then, thinking it was a joke. But she wasn't joking. The entire class had watched the exchange, their laughter filling the room. Backing out now would mean humiliation, being labeled a coward. So here I was, trapped by pride and curiosity, pulling on a fitted white blouse, a pleated gray skirt that barely reached my knees, and a soft cardigan that smelled faintly of lavender. My legs trembled as I slid sheer tights up them, the sensation alien, yet strangely electrifying. Every motion, adjusting the skirt, brushing my wig, applying light makeup as guided by Emma, felt like a point of no return. Emma, sitting on my bed, giggled as she fastened a delicate silver bracelet on my wrist. You actually look really cute, Ethan. I mean, Emily, she teased, smirking. Don't, I muttered, cheeks burning. This is humiliating enough. Relax, she said, brushing a loose strand of wig hair from my face. You might even enjoy it. Who knows? I glared at her, but the truth was, deep down, I already did feel something strange, an odd sense of thrill mixed with dread. It wasn't just the clothes or makeup, it was the vulnerability, the exposure. I was stepping into a world I'd never known. When I finally stepped out of the house, the morning breeze brushed against my bare legs, reminding me how different everything felt now. Every movement was careful, self-conscious. The walk to school was nerve-wracking. I felt every pair of eyes linger on me. My heart raced whenever someone's gaze lingered too long, and I prayed no one would recognize me. But by the time I reached the campus gate, the whispers had already started. Who's that new girl? Wait, is that Ethan? No way. By the time I entered the classroom, my face was flushed red. Miss Avery stood by her desk, wearing her usual confident smile. Emily, she said sweetly, her tone full of amusement. You're right on time. The entire class burst into laughter, phones out, recording. I wanted to disappear. I took a shaky seat at the front, my skirt rustling softly. Miss Avery began the lecture as if nothing was unusual, but her glances at me were sharp, analyzing, like she was testing how far I'd go before cracking. Halfway through the lesson, she asked, Emily, could you come to the board and solve this equation for us? My stomach dropped. The name Emily felt like a spotlight, and my hands trembled as I stood. The click of my heels on the classroom floor was deafening. I grabbed the chalk, trying to steady my breathing, and began writing. Then it happened. Someone whispered loudly from the back. Nice legs, Emily. The class erupted into laughter again. I froze, chalk midair, feeling my face turn crimson. Miss Avery shot the boy a warning glance, but didn't say anything. She wanted to see how I'd handle it. My eyes met hers briefly. There was no cruelty there, only curiosity. This was her experiment, and I was her subject. When the bell finally rang, I darted out, my heart pounding. But just as I thought I was safe, Miss Avery called out, Emily, a word, please. The classroom emptied quickly, and she closed the door behind the last student. You did well, she said calmly, approaching me. You lasted longer than I expected. You humiliated me, I snapped. This was supposed to be a lesson, not a circus. And yet, she said, tilting her head, you didn't run away. Why is that? I hesitated. I didn't have an answer. Because maybe, just maybe, a part of me wanted to see how far I could go. She studied me closely, her voice softening. Do you realize how different your energy is right now? You're not acting. This feels natural. I shook my head, but she smiled faintly, handing me a folded piece of paper. If you really want this to end, open this note after class. Otherwise, come see me after school. Her eyes glimmered with challenge again. The day dragged on with a mix of stares, whispers, and confusion. At lunch, Emma joined me in the courtyard, still laughing about my new identity. Honestly, you pull it off better than I thought, she said between bites of her sandwich. Please, stop saying that, I muttered, covering my face. I'm serious, she insisted. You walk differently, talk differently. It's like you're slipping into it naturally. That night, when I got home, I stared at the note Miss Avery had given me. My hands shook as I unfolded it.
It read,
Come to the art room tomorrow, 4 p.m., if you're brave enough to finish what you started. The next day felt heavier. Every step toward that art room felt like a countdown. When I pushed the door open, Miss Avery was waiting, surrounded by fabrics, wigs, and a camera. Welcome back, Emily, she said with a smile that was half teacher, half something else. What is this? I asked, nervous.
A project, she replied.
You've learned to hide behind your pride. Let's see who you really are when you strip that away. Before I could react, she handed me another outfit, a more elegant dress this time, paired with heels. My throat tightened. You want me to wear this? I want you to understand why you're scared of it, she replied softly. I hesitated. Then, slowly, I stepped behind the divider and began to change. The moment the fabric slid over my body, the room went silent. I looked at myself in the mirror again, and this time, I couldn't tell where Ethan ended and Emily began. When I stepped out, Miss Avery's expression changed. For the first time, she looked proud. There she is, she whispered. Now let's see if you can walk through that door tomorrow as both Ethan and Emily. I didn't understand what she meant, but I could feel something shifting inside me. I was no longer just pretending. Something real had awakened, and I wasn't sure if I could put it back. I stood there, frozen in front of her, the soft fabric of the dress brushing against my skin like a secret I wasn't supposed to feel. Miss Avery's words echoed in the quiet art room. Let's see if you can walk through that door tomorrow as both Ethan and Emily. Her tone wasn't teasing anymore, it was almost gentle, like she understood something I didn't. My lips parted, but no sound came out.
I didn't even know what to say.
Was this still part of the bet? Or had it become something else entirely, a test of who I really was? The air in the room felt heavy, charged with something unspoken. Miss Avery stepped closer, her gaze never leaving mine. You wore that dress with fear this morning, she said quietly. Now you're wearing it with confidence. Do you see the difference? I wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, that this was just a game I'd been trapped in. But the words caught in my throat, because she wasn't wrong. Somewhere between the laughter, the humiliation, and the makeup smudges, I had found something unsettling, an odd, fragile sense of freedom. She smiled faintly and turned off the camera she'd been using to document the project. Tomorrow, she said, come to class however you feel most like yourself. I won't judge. And just like that, she left me alone. I stood in front of the mirror for what felt like hours. My reflection was quiet, but my thoughts were screaming. The eyeliner framed my eyes in a way that made them look softer, deeper. The lipstick caught the light, giving me a new kind of presence. I whispered my own name, Ethan. Then, softly, Emily. The difference between the two felt thinner than a breath. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Miss Avery's words looping in my mind. Come as who you feel you are. Emma's text popped up on my phone around midnight. Emma. So, how did the bet end? Are you done being Miss Pretty? Me. I don't know. Emma, don't tell me you liked it. Me? I don't know what I liked. I didn't send another message after that. The next morning, the alarm rang, but I didn't move. My uniform lay neatly folded on one side of the bed, the dress from yesterday draped on the other. Two versions of me waiting for a choice. I stared at them for what felt like forever. Then, almost without thinking, I reached for the lipstick first. Walking into the school that day, everything felt amplified. The sound of my heels, the breeze against my legs, the whispers around me. I caught my reflection in the glass doors. Emily looked back, nervous but steady. The hallway went silent as I entered the classroom. Every eye turned toward me. Even Miss Avery's expression shifted from calm professionalism to something that almost looked like awe. "Good morning, Miss Avery," I said softly. Her eyes widened slightly. "You chose to come as Emily," she said, her voice careful. I nodded, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear myself reply. "You said to come as who I felt like." So I did. The room stayed silent for a few seconds. Then, from the back, someone whispered, "No way, he actually did it again?" Laughter bubbled up in pockets, but this time it didn't sting as much. Miss Avery's gaze, steady and approving, anchored me. "Class," she said finally, her voice sharp but calm, "today's lesson is about perception and courage." She looked at me for a long moment before adding, "Emily will be helping me demonstrate." My hands trembled, but I smiled faintly. Somewhere deep inside, fear and relief tangled together in a way I couldn't name. After class, Emma cornered me outside the door, her expression unreadable. "So you really went through with it," she said quietly.
Yeah.
Even after everyone laughed. "I had to," I said. It felt right. She didn't say anything at first. Then she reached up and touched the strand of wig hair framing my face. "You're crazy," she whispered. "But you look happy." Before I could answer, a voice called out from behind. "Emily." I turned. Miss Avery was standing by her car, waving for me to come over. Emma looked at me, half smiling. "Go on, teacher's favorite." I walked toward Miss Avery, heart racing again. She leaned against her car, arms folded. "So," she said softly, "was it worth it?" "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But I think I understand myself more than I did yesterday." She smiled, her eyes reflecting something warm and mysterious.
Good.
"Because this was never about a bet, Ethan. It was about finding the courage to face who you are." Then she opened her car door, giving me a knowing look. "See you tomorrow, Emily." I froze. "Tomorrow?" "Yes," she said, smiling faintly. "We're not done yet." And with that, she drove off, leaving me standing in the parking lot, the wind tugging at my skirt, my heart pounding with equal parts dread and excitement. Was this really the end of the bet, or just the beginning of something far more dangerous? As I watched her car disappear, one thought echoed in my mind, chilling and thrilling at once. Maybe I wasn't pretending anymore.